Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mike.
And I'm Tabby.
And we're Happy Hour Podcast. You're listening to Bleach Bros Podcast. Thank you for all the dirty talk, and come back and get sanitized.
Welcome into the Bleach Brothers podcast. This is B-Word, and as usual, I am here with my good buddy Jake. Jake, how you doing tonight, bud?
Wonderful. You ask every week, and of course, I am always doing wonderful.
Well, you can't always tell the truth.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel wonderful today. I feel like I look good. I feel like I sound good. How are you doing? Let me ask you for once. How are you, B-Word?
I feel like I've been lied to.
About what?
Ed McMahon.
Okay.
So what do you know Ed McMahon as?
Isn't he the guy that would knock on your door on Super Bowl Sunday and give you a lot of money?
Yeah, but what company did he work for?
Publisher working, was it Publishers Clearinghouse?
Yeah, apparently that is a Mandela Effect. He never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse.
No, don't you do this to me.
Look it up.
No.
I will pause right now for you to look it up.
No.
Because
what's his name? Ed McMahon, right?
Ed McMahon. Because this came across my news feed today, and I've always known Ed McMahon to work for Publishers Clearinghouse. Always. And now the internet says that he's never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. Not once, not never. And I know I just use a double negative right there. But he has never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, and I feel lied to.
He did. I remember it because they used to say Publishers Clearinghouse. They would go and...
Yeah. And he would show up and he would knock on the door and he'd deliver the check, right? And the check would say Publishers Clearinghouse on it. Well, now the interwebs are saying that he worked for a different company, like
American Family Publishers.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are those people?
Never heard of them, ever. But apparently Publishers was like bigger in the font on the check, and so that's what they're saying. People realize that. I don't like this Mandela Effect, dude. It really bothers me. You and I've talked at length. I don't remember if we recorded it or not, but about Sinbad. Like we remember him. Yeah. We remember him playing a genie. Like it happened.
Yes.
And this is fuck, dude. I'm not a fan of Ed McMahon not being affiliated with Publishers Clearinghouse.
Who was his little buddy that went with him? He had a buddy.
I know that there was a buddy. I don't remember who he was. I couldn't tell you. I feel like that'd
be you with me if I worked for Publishers. Like that would be me and you delivering checks.
Probably, yeah. We'd be delivering eviction notices.
Dude. I remember my dad used to fill it out and like
it would just show it. It would just show up in the mail, and you would fill it out and you would mail it. You would mail it in. Like that was how you enrolled. That was how
because my dad explained it to me. He goes, it was called Publishers Clearinghouse because what they were trying to do is clear out the old inventory to get people to buy it and get the magazines.
It was like a different version of like a Columbia House where they're trying to send out all of these, periodicals. And dude, I found this out today and it really fucking bothered me.
Now I'm bothered. Thank you. Thank you, B-Word. I was having a good day because Johnny Depp won. I don't know if you heard that.
I did. Yeah.
He won.
And so not only is Amber Heard like an evil human, right? We've talked about this before, right? Do I think that Johnny Depp did something to her? Did he push her? Did he slap her? Maybe. I think that there's a very good chance that he did. Mm-hmm. I don't know for a fact that he did, but I know she shit on his bed. And I'm not saying that if you shit on somebody's bed, you deserve to be slapped. But Jake, if you shit on somebody's bed, you deserve to be slapped. Like it's some bullshit. But I am happy that Johnny Depp won. I'm happy that it's no longer in the news because that was, getting old really quick.
So do you feel like it wasn't okay? So I watch a lot of trials, like the big ones I'm talking about, like Casey Anthony. Remember that was a big one.
Yeah, fuck her too.
Well, fuck her, but what I'm saying is, B-Word, like that was in the news all the time. And were you sick of that just the same, or was that because it's actually an actual case of like actual consequences and that you cared more, or is it on the same level? Because like to me, I cared about this Johnny Depp case, but it's also like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I sort of felt dirty like following it, if that makes sense.
I've never watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Neither have I. What I'm saying is I feel dirty watching the Johnny Depp thing going, oh, it's like it's Hollywood bullshit that I'm really caring about, even though it's domestic violence. But you get what I mean? Like, Casey Anthony, that's a murder trial. I want that bitch to fry.
Casey Anthony, I think, was a little bit more relatable for me, not in a sense that I've been tried for murder or anything, but in a sense that her daughter was my daughter's age. And so, like, I think I was a little bit more intrigued by it because, like, I wanted this bitch to fry, right? Okay. But I think my first experience with court TV or anything like that was the J Simpson trial.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my grandma would watch that all the time. And so I followed it because I was in elementary school and I just thought, wow, I think this is something that's interesting. And I actually remember, like, the day that he wasn't convicted. He was acquitted. I still remember that day. We were actually walking to, I think I was in 5th grade. We were actually walking to the library, and while we were in the library, it was announced. So it was kind of interesting.
See, because I remember on the O.J. Simpson thing, the trial didn't interrupt the basketball game. That was the car chase, right? Or did I have
the car chase interrupted the basketball game?
There'll be a Mandela effect. The reason I brought that up, there'll be a Mandela effect in a few years that I'm wrong. Yeah. It'll be the trial that interrupted the game.
Well, speaking of nostalgic things that get ruined, we both saw Top Gun Maverick this weekend, and I don't preface it that Top Gun Maverick ruined anything, because I think it's actually the opposite. I fell in love with this movie, and I absolutely enjoyed it for a sequel's purposes. But talk to me about, so I went and saw it first, and I normally don't wait for movies. I don't have great patience when it comes to that, but I did see it a few days after it opened, and I sent you a message and basically just gave you a blurb that said more or less, good movie, good plot, good fan service, go see it. And then you saw it the next day. Am I correct on that?
I saw it the next day. Now, one thing I love about you, B-Word, I will say this. So when we go to movies, usually you go before me because you do have impatience, and I do too. But I remember, I hate that movies are out on Thursdays now, and now also Wednesdays. Yep. I'm a traditionalist. So, but the one thing that pissed me off, or not pissed me off, the one thing that I always find funny, B-Word, is you'll always call me, or first you'll go, hey, when I get on a movie, do you want me to call you? It'll be late. And usually I'm like, yeah. And you'll call me and you'll start like, going, hey, this, that happened, or, this. And you go, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene with a sandwich. And when you see the sandwich, you'll know. And I'm just like, so then sometimes I'm sitting in the theater going, I have to watch for this fucking sandwich. I got to see what B-Word's talking about.
You know where I got that from?
Where?
From Avengers Endgame.
Because
you saw that before me, and you said, B-Word, there's a point in here where I just yelled out, what are they going to do? Make a sandwich? And then you said, and you'll know it when you see it. And I went the whole movie going, I don't understand what this is. And all of a sudden, all the female superheroes come out to fight Thanos. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess they would make a super sandwich here, wouldn't they?
You know what I will say? So I hate when people talk in the theater or anything, right? And so the one thing I hated is when I went to see this, everybody was kept clapping during the movie, and it was pissing me off. But I'm the guy that yells out those jokes every now and then. And my wife and me went on a date to watch Top Gun Maverick, right? And I don't know if I told you what I did when I saw the Buzz Lightyear trailer.
No.
So you saw the trailer for that, right?
Yeah.
So at the end when he's going to point his finger and the girl's like, oh, you want to pull my finger? Me being me, when he goes, I used to do this with your grandma. I went, he used to finger her grandma. And the whole theater starts rolling. Well, my wife knew I did that the first time I saw that trailer. So as this trailer comes on, she starts giggling. And I'm like, oh, what's she laughing about? And then I look over and she goes, no. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't want me to do it. And that happened. And she grabbed my arm and squeezed really tight right before I could yell it out. And I went, I better not do this right now. I want to get laid still.
It's funny that you bring that up, because there was a lot of people who were clapping and cheering and oohing and awing through this movie. That doesn't necessarily bother me, I think, as much as it bothers you. But I will say that there were a lot of parts to that where I could see that people would be excited over it. I will say that I was very much a jokester in this movie, because I was making jokes about the first one, right? So like there was a point that Tom Cruise's character Maverick and Penny Benjamin, his love interest, were going to her house, and I looked over at my friend Milani and I was like, he's about to take her breath away. And the song didn't come on, and then and at the end there was like the jukebox moment, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, she's lost that love and feeling, right? And then of course they didn't play the song, so I was pretty disappointed that like my jokes were on point, but they didn't, you know,
they didn't land like that.
They didn't quite
they landed like the plane in the movie.
Yes.
Spoiler. Yes. The plane in the movie got caught by a net because there's no wheels. That's how your jokes landed, just like Maverick.
Yeah, but they did take off, so I'm happy about that. So I do need to preface, we are going to get into spoiler territory for Top Gun Maverick. So if you have not watched this, you can listen and, you know, we'll spoil it for you. If you have watched it, then enjoy, because we're going to talk about it. But Jake, what are your initial opinions on this film?
Amazing. Loved it better than the first one. It's my favorite.
Better than the first one? I
do. Yep. I rewatched it again. When I got home, my wife goes, "Hey, let's watch the original." I was like, all right. So we get home, and that night we watched the original, and we're watching it. And then afterwards she did I'm really rubbing off on my wife with movies. If I don't like a movie, this is what I do at the end. I go, huh. That's it. I just, huh. Or I go, that happened. And she just went, huh. And I went, what? She goes, there's not really a lot that happens. I'm like, it's an 80s action flick. Of course there's not. And this one's story was very, okay. I think it's also B-word. I went into it with under expectations.
Yeah. Well, you had actually told me that didn't they show this at one of the film festivals?
They did at the I don't remember which one, but
was it South by Southwest or
no? It was maybe it was E3. But what happened is Paramount decided to release it to everybody, and I told you, well, they must be releasing it because it's probably going to do bad. I mean, why would you release the whole crowd?
You were not bought into this at all. I will say, so this film, you know, it's 30 some odd years, 36, 37 years from Top Gun to Top Gun Maverick. And I remember in the early 2000s, this was kind of a movie that I was wondering if they would ever come out with a sequel, because there had started to be sequels and remakes of things that I enjoyed. Some of them hit, some of them missed, but I was curious, like, would this ever be one? And there was always talk, like they wanted to do a sequel, but they wanted to have the right plot. They wanted to have the right storyline, but they also wanted to have the right technology too. And that really made this film very well done with the technology of the film and the cameras and all that sort of stuff. But this film was really good in a sense that I think the fact that it did take this long and they did put the quality into it made it so much better of a film than if it would have came out, let's say, in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. Also, what I really enjoyed about this film is how they did just enough fan service to like get fans interested in it, but it wasn't the whole movie. Like the whole movie wasn't fan service. Like there it was an original storyline, a predictable storyline, if I may say so.
Yeah.
You knew kind of what to expect as far as the action sequences go. But of course, with the available technology for filming this film, as well as the character buildup, I did not expect for that much character development in this film. Did you?
No, I didn't expect all the character development. Also, because I actually I have a theory on this movie, since we're getting into spoilers. So the opening scene, when he's trying to go Mach 9 or Mach 10, you know,
Mach 10, yeah.
Well, but on the calendar it says Mach 9, but yeah, Mach 10. And Ed Harris's character shows up to kill the program, right? And says, we're going to do drones. The other reason I wasn't bought into this film originally is you read what they were going to do with it originally years ago.
Yeah.
That it was going to be all drone fighting and stuff. And so I honestly think part of it might have been like, oh, that was written in there.
Yeah.
And then the whole story changed and they made an amazing story with this movie. So I really think that Ed Harris's character was going to have a bigger role and they were going to go down that drone path, and it didn't happen. And I'm happy it didn't, because you wouldn't have got character development. You would have got almost the original movie again, right? You would have had people in there, just fighting robots. And how much fun is that? I mean, we can already see Tom Cruise do that in Minority Report, essentially. So I don't need that in my life. But I'll ask you this, B word. I like this one more. Do you like the original better?
So we have had a number of debates on sequels that are better than the original. Mm-hmm. And you can visit, some of our back catalog to try to go into some of those conversations. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I know that Josh from Apple Boys podcast was saying in the Dad's Discord the other night that this is his favorite movie. I like the movie. Without the first one, there's not this one. Does that make sense? And so I can't say that this movie is better standalone, because you could watch this movie without the previous movie, of course, but to get the context of this movie, you have to have the first movie. And the first movie for me, contextually, is so much better for me because it is nostalgic. It did bring in a storyline that was unfamiliar at the time that they did this. It was original. It was the first pairing of naval aviators with Hollywood. There was quite a bit of action in that film, which is also good for 80s action films. So I'm going to stick with the first one. There's also the first one I feel is also more quotable. So I do think that, I feel the need for speed. You talk to me, Goose. We're going ballistic Mav. Go get him. Do some of that pilot shit.
I was inverted.
There's so many more quotes from the first one than there is this one. I will say though, this one impressed me a lot. This one was exactly what I was looking for from this film. There was just enough action. There was a lot more character development than I even anticipated. I found myself really liking the characters in this film a lot more than, let's say, Hollywood and Wolfman in the original one. Or even Slider.
I hate Slider.
Goose's rear in the first one. Like, I found that this movie was very, 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 very good in the storyline. It was very good in the script. They touched on a lot of things like Rooster's mom, which is Goose's wife. They explained her. They didn't explain Charlie, but the media is trying to tell me that they should have explained that. If you're like reading reviews, they didn't have to. Maverick just gets pussy. Like, that's just it. He's on to the next after that. And to have Penny Benjamin come into it was like such a deep Easter egg cut from the first one, because that's the Admiral's daughter that he got in trouble with.
Yep.
And the actor, help me out here. The actor who played Rooster in this one.
Oh, Miles Teller, dude.
Miles Teller.
Amazing actor.
Holy crap, did he look like Goose. He and the way that he performed and the throwback references that he did, like playing goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire on the piano, exactly how his dad did. And then the chemistry between him and Maverick, or the anti-chemistry, if you will, between him and Maverick, the storyline on there. I love the side characters. John Hamm's character was phenomenal. You even talked about Ed Harris's character. I don't think that these are the same character because I believe that they have different call signs. Mm-hmm. But I think the Ed Harris character is almost like the character in the first one on the first battleship that they're on when they get sent to Top Gun. Like, it's almost supposed to give you that same feeling when Maverick's in trouble, right? When him and Goose get called in and they're told that they're going to Top Gun. I thought that this was just incredible, dude. Like, there was the best part about this one, and you can tell me what you think about this too. There wasn't any social agenda in this film.
No.
And I fucking loved it.
My wife said that. So, and you know me, I love to go to my wife for reviews because she's a very honest to the point and just says it. And so we walked out and I go, what do you think? She goes, I liked everything. She goes, there was two things she didn't like. But the one thing she said, she goes, you know what I enjoyed? It wasn't super woke and like trying to make like, oh my God, we need this or implement this and stuff. Because right when we got home, of course, I read reviews and stuff, and I saw this one writer. I wanted to see how many people gave it bad reviews.
Yeah.
And one person wrote an article that it was terrible because they didn't put enough women in the movie and there wasn't enough women in charge. and this and that. And I was reading out loud. My wife goes, "So what the fuck? You just need a bunch of women characters for no reason?" And she goes, "Well, there was a character in there and she did a great job.
She did an awesome job.
She did a great job." And Phoenix, and some of those side characters, the character development was great because I loved Hangman. I loved how much of a douche he was, and how
Hangman was the perfect mix between Iceman and Maverick. Did you notice that?
I thought he was more of a perfect mix of Slider and Iceman if you put that guy in one plane.
Yeah, I could totally see that too. But where I was going with that was that Iceman has that arrogance to him. Like Val Kilmer was perfect for that role. But Iceman had that arrogance to him. But Maverick also had that where he leaves his wingman. He's got a showboat. He's got a buzz of the tower. Yeah, super ego. So I thought that those were a mix between the two. I could see Slider and Iceman, but Hangman was a killer character in this movie.
So was Coyote. I mean, almost they made every pilot that was in the training. Essentially, there might have been a few that were lost, but even like Bob was awesome.
I loved Bob.
Baby on board.
Bob. Yeah,
but like because you look back and you had like Sunshine, right?
Yeah.
Who in the original doesn't really do much. I mean, besides the scene he yells at that. And then you had all the other guys in Top Gun and you didn't really get to know them, but you got to know almost all these guys. Mind you, they were going through the training. The one issue I had, and it was not until my wife said it and we thought about it, like I said, one of the problems she had was how nobody can do the training, right? Everybody's failing miserably. John Hamm, acknowledges it and says it's failing. Maverick's gone. Of course, he steals a plane, which would never fucking happen. Steals a plane and then of course goes out there and automatically does it, which that's not my wife's problem. At first I was thinking, no, that's the problem. Of course he can do it. No, I think he knew he could do it. He's that type of pilot. The problem is they just went out and did the mission right after that and nobody had a problem.
Yeah.
And it was
everybody succeeded.
Yeah, everybody succeeded because they just saw him do it, so now they can do it, and that's not how life works.
There were definitely some plot holes like that I could see. Number one, there's that. You and I talked about that yesterday, trying to plan for this show. Number two, Goose's son Bradley in Top Gun. So Top Gun came out in 86, I think, and he was probably 4 years old. So that means he was born in 82. So he's a 40-year-old pilot in this film. Like that didn't really like make a whole lot of sense to me, but Hollywood, right? There's an explanation for everything. There were some things like that just didn't add up. There was really good references though to Goose dying when Maverick was flying. And I thought that they handled those very, very well from a storyline standpoint. But there were also some things like there's no way that somebody who's been given an order is going to take their squad or their, whatever you want to call them, their team to the beach and just play football. Right. And even in the first one, the volleyball scene was not supposed to be in the film. Like it was supposed to be in the film, but it was like one of those scenes that was a potential throwaway. Mm-hmm. And so like, there were some callbacks, there were some good references, there were some good shout outs. But from an overall standpoint, I didn't have like a significant problem with this film. I loved that it was apolitical in a sense where there wasn't any political agenda, there wasn't any social agenda, there wasn't any woke shit in there. I think that we as a society are starting to move on a little bit from the woke. Not that we're not acknowledging people of diversity, but that we're just trying not to force it in there. Like I watched, this is a separate thing. Like I watched a movie, Ambulance this last weekend. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal. It was terrible. But as it started, so Jake Gyllenhaal has a friend who grew up with him, and he's a black gentleman, and they're going to go rob a bank. And then it turns out that they have another person that they grew up with who's an FBI bank investigator. And one of the things that happened in the movie is as they're building these characters, they introduce the FBI investigator character as he's in marital counseling with his husband. And I don't care, but that scene was forced in there to show some sort of diversity, right? Like they never touched upon it again. It was just how the character was introduced and it said, hey, not only is this a character, but he's also gay. Guess what, dude? I don't care. I don't care if anybody's gay. And if they are, more power to them. But to try to shove it into the movie is just like a plot point that just doesn't belong, if that makes sense. Yeah. And there wasn't any of that in Top Gun Maverick. I obviously you're going to tell me that Top Gun Maverick was better than the first. How do you justify that one?
The story was drawn out, had an actual mission. I felt like it wasn't just a bunch of guys at flight school, like dicking around. And not that there's a problem with that. And I know that's the whole point of Top Gun, but I felt like there were scenes. It's like, okay, you get an intro, you go there. It's very 80s movie where there's, it's almost like there's a lot of montages and a lot of nothingness happening. And I think movies gotten past that. But the main thing is, and not that I'm bored during Top Gun, trust me, it's a really good film. I fucking love it. But this movie was long and didn't feel long at all. The third act came on. I wasn't bored. I was still full front on my seat and enjoying every minute and wanted it to go. The only complaint I had, more people needed to die. I needed that. I have a hard time justifying who should die, but I really feel like that should have happened. There should have been some consequence. And I guess I would call it Act 4 was a little bit like, okay.
After the crash?
It's predictable. Yeah. I know where this is going. It's going to happen. That's fine. And I know where this is going. And that's fine. It's Hollywood. You need that ending. But I could have been happier with a different ending.
I think that there's so first off, somebody did die. And we've talked about this too. It was Iceman. Iceman died of the throat cancer or whatever he was diagnosed with. How did you feel about that cameo, by the way?
Fine. I was fine with it because I mean, out of all the cameos, that's the person I'd probably want to see back there. Because Val Kilmer's my favorite character in the first one.
Yeah.
I relate more to Iceman than anybody, so I get it. I just I wasn't expecting how he was talking, like, with the computer.
So they had phenomenal technology with that. You know whose voice it was, right?
Yeah. That was his that they did through AI. But I meant like just when he was typing, I wasn't expecting that when he was typing because I read that he was in the film and he was going to speak. So I was like, oh, no, okay. And then I thought it was going to be the Christopher. How are you today? Talking shit.
Right. Well, there's actually two things. So number one, when he types up, you've got to let him go or whatever. That's exactly what Viper told Maverick.
Yeah.
After Goose's death, and he told it to him twice. So when Iceman typed it up and he says, I know, but I just don't know how. And then he points him back to the screen. You just got to let him go. It paid homage to Viper, which I thought was really cool. But actually his voice, while it is Val Kilmer's voice, it was actually voiced by his son, which was really cool too. I did really enjoy that cameo. I've wanted a Top Gun remake for a long time. So the fact that
you mean remake or sequel?
Sorry, sequel for a long time. So the fact that Iceman was there was really cool. You and I did talk separately about that there needed to kind of be some sort of weight to the movie in the form of a death. I'm okay with the fact that Iceman died and how he died and whatever else. I just kind of thought that when Phoenix and Bob hit the birds, I thought that was going to create maybe like a Bob death as an example, because Bob kind of seemed like that goofy character, kind of like a Goose, where he just had that weird personality, and maybe that would kind of pay homage to the Goose death. And then how does Maverick lead the team through that mourning process? But when that didn't happen, I was all for Maverick dying at the end.
Same here, because if you look at the team, B-word, you have Coyote, right, who could die, and you're like, okay, I can see him. Phoenix can die, and you're like, okay, I can see that, but she seems like an integral member. Bob could die, but that's Goose too, essentially.
Right.
His son, Rooster, could die, but then Maverick's not going to do it because then he's going to be even more of a train wreck. Right. Hangman dies, and the crowd doesn't give a fuck because he's a douche. Right. So it's like, where do you go from there? Like, I was
fine with a Maverick death, and like you said, that's almost Act 4. Because when he went down into the snow, I thought he was dead. And I thought that Rooster was going to take that. And if for some reason they wanted to do a trilogy, now you can break down Rooster having to deal with that, and whatever he decides to do. I was expecting that. And then when it didn't happen, I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I was disappointed, if that makes sense. Because I did feel like that there wasn't enough weight in the movie, and it did have that glorious Hollywood happy ending, and there was a lot of homage to Top Gun when they're celebrating on the battleship and all that sort of stuff. But overall, man, where would you rank this? Like, if you're going to rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, where would you rank it?
An 8.5 or a 9.
On a scale of 1 to 5?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking 1 to 10. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's fine. 1 to 10 is fine.
Okay, so 1 to 10. Sorry, but if it was 1 to 5, I guess 4.5. It was just really enjoyable. I wasn't bored. I liked it. Character development was good. Action sequences were awesome. Everybody that played, there wasn't a bad character in the film.
No.
There wasn't anybody that was a weak link acting. I mean, you can give me Jennifer Connelly all day too, even the way she ages, and I'm fucking happy, dude.
Right.
I'm a huge Jennifer Connelly fan. I really like that. I guess the one downfall for it is, like I said, there was no disappointment, no heavy weight, and then also predictability. Predictability is the hardest thing. It's really hard with certain genres of films because you don't want those twisty plot points, right? You don't want all of a sudden, something to come out where it's out of left field and you're like, why because what happens with the action films, then you're like, well, where the hell did that come from? You're never going to tie that. It's a Jerry Bruck or who is that? Michael Bay film. Then all of a sudden you just need more explosions, or you have the other aspect where it's so predictable, it's mundane. And so I think it was closer to that side of the spectrum, but it wasn't so boring that it was so predictable.
Well, so a couple things about this movie, and I agree with you as far as your ranking goes. So I'll just second exactly how you ranked it. A couple things about this movie.
5.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the largest Memorial Day opening ever, which surprised me. But considering the quality of the movie and also the nostalgia of the movie, I know that I was super excited to go. But I think it hit a key demographic for moviegoers. I think you're looking at people from the 35 to maybe 60. Like, this was the key demographic for people willing to spend money on it. But it also had a good enough storyline for those 20-year-olds as well, Tom Cruise's biggest opening, which that surprised me considering all the movies that Tom Cruise has been a part of. And so Rotten Tomatoes, last I checked, had this ranked at 96 or 97% cinema score. So I think that we're right in the same ballpark as a lot of the audience. Box office wise, I would argue this might be the biggest movie of 2022, especially going into December, even January of next year. I don't see another movie on the slate that's going to beat this one. So good stuff on there. Kind of keeping it with Top Gun, though. You and I wanted to rank our top 5 80s action films. And so this might get interesting for us.
This is hard.
Because it is hard. It is hard. I agree with you there. So as usual, we have a couple honorable mentions. My honorable mentions are going to be more goofy, I think, than people will allow. But I'd like you to start. What do you have for your 2 honorable mentions for this list?
Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
Okay. And
Die Hard, I like it. Now that everybody's made it a Christmas movie, I guess I watch it less. I'm not the biggest Die Hard fan. I think, like I said, it's a good movie. I don't rewatch it all the time, though. And Lethal Weapon, there was a lot of good ones after that, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a good movie, but it's not the best to be the top 5. The biggest problem I have with this list, B-word, is that there's a lot of movies I haven't seen. I'm surprised. After like looking up 80s, I was like, wow, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. Am I a joke? Like, what is wrong with me?
Right.
What are your honorable mentions, brother?
So these are goofy. So these would not make a top 5, probably not make a top 10. So I'll allow some criticism here. But these are more for remembering me watching these films and not really understanding how bad these films were at the time. So Masters of the Universe, the He-Man live action film.
What the fuck?
Dude, I loved watching that when I was a kid. It was, because here's the thing. He-Man was this cartoon, right? Yeah. We had this cartoon, like Skeletor was a cartoon, like it was a thing. I remember watching the Saturday morning cartoons or whenever it aired, and it was one of the very first live action films that I had seen, other than maybe like Superman, right? So it was something that I remember watching over and over. I can't watch it now. So honorable mention for that reason.
Isn't
The
that
next
movie
one-
one of the first ones with an end credit scene?
Oh, I don't remember, dude.
It has an
I'd
end
have to
credit
look
scene.
it up.
But I'm saying, isn't that, I don't know if there's a lot more movies before that did that.
Yeah, I don't know. Ferris Bueller had an end credit scene. So
Yeah, but that's
you know,
just
maybe that
telling you to
maybe
leave.
that did it. But
Okay.
but the other one is Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck is so close to home for me. Like, I fucking love the film. I like the fact that the duck gets frisky with Marty McFly's mom. It's a terrible film. Like, I own it and I try to watch it and I can't. But it's so bad it's good. So those are my two honorable mention. But I'm excited to get into this top 5 list. So you said Die Hard for your honorable mention. You also said Lethal Weapon. Neither one of those made my top 5. So let's see how close or how far apart we get on this. What's your number 5?
Bloodsport.
Okay.
I love Bloodsport. It's that guilty pleasure because you rewatch it and it's 80s to a T.
Yep.
Montages and when they're just singing Kumite, and I just and he throws the powder in his eyes and he's screaming and stuff. But I just love that film. It's like one of those, I just can't help but watch it when it's on. So that has a soft spot in my heart. So Bloodsport would be number 5.
You took my 5.
Really?
My number 5 is Bloodsport.
Way to go, bro!
Yeah,
you're picking good movies today.
Yeah, that's funny. So let me go with number 4 since I let you go with number 5. Full Metal Jacket is my number 4. I think that Stanley Kubrick did a phenomenal job. Ironically, what's really funny about this movie is that the person who played Joker in Full Metal Jacket was actually supposed to play Maverick in Top Gun, but he turned it down because he felt like Top Gun glorified war and he wanted war to show more about the mental illness side of whatever. So he was actually cast in Joker, as Joker, I should say. And that's also the very first movie for the guy who plays Kingpin. What the hell's his name?
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio, and he played a fantastic fantastic character in that film. So Full Metal Jacket is my number 4.
See, I have a hard time with that because I love that movie too, but I look at it more of like a drama study than an action film.
It's got a lot of action in it, though.
I know it does, but I'm saying, like, to me, it was more that's the route I went. Like, because Howard the Duck, like you said,
right.
I just can't talk about ducks on this show anymore because anytime I do, somebody's convinced I'm going to jerk off or something. But
it's true.
That's a good number 4, though. I like that. Mine would be Batman.
Batman 89. Okay.
89. I don't think I could do this list without listing Batman, even though it's a comic book movie. It is action.
It is an action film.
Amazing. Did a great job. It led the way for what we have now. So I love that film. I can't deny it. It's one of the best. So it came out right at the end of the year, right before the decade was over.
Yep.
And
Still
and to
counts.
be honest, it I don't know. It's just that one holds up to this day. So
that's my number 2.
Okay.
So I'm just going to put that out there. My number 3 is Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott had everything 80s that you wanted. It had music. It had boobies and subies. It had a very bad plot. It had a lot of fights and everything that you want from an 80s movie. So Roadhouse is my number 3. I've also said my number 2, so let's at least get you to your number 3 and number 2.
Number 3 is Top Gun.
Okay.
I remember watching that movie when I was like 4 or 5 years old and playing on a couch bed with my friends in the living room with our little fake planes and just coming up with our own call signs. And I don't know. It still has that soft spot in my heart. It is 80s nostalgia for me too. So I don't think I can watch an 80s action film without thinking of that. So That's number 3. I think you're going to hate me for my next 2 because they're definitely in one genre, but number 2 is Aliens.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even think Aliens actually when I was putting this list together.
I have a hard time going back and forth if I think Alien or Aliens is better because they're almost 2 different movies, if that makes sense.
Kind of like how you were talking about Batman's a comic book movie. I think of Aliens as a sci-fi.
It is. I
don't really
sci-fi action, right?
Yeah, it is action for sure. I just didn't think of it as an action film. But yeah, go ahead.
But that I don't know. James Cameron did a great job, dude. It's a fucking killer film. Great action sequences, great special effects. But that's my genre of action films. I grew up with a lot of sci-fi, so that was what really excited me. So I don't know. That's what I'd put there. I think they did a killer job with that film.
Okay. So my number one, you've already said, so I'll just put it out there. Top Gun's my number one in the 80s. If it was the 90s, it'd probably be Point Break. But Point Break was 91. I love everything about Top Gun. I've seen it probably literally a million times. I still watch it to this day, anytime it's on, over any other movie. Like, you know, there were a couple movies that like were really close to making this top 5, like Kickboxer, was close to making it. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme's a great actor, especially in that genre. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Top Gun for sure is far and away my number one on this list. So what do you got?
The soundtrack
is great.
Everything about it. Yeah. But number one for me, I think, is it brings everything together that I think of with 80s action.
Okay.
Predator. With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Dude, when Jesse the Body Ventura is sitting there trying to get everybody to take chew and says, "This shit will make you a sexual tyrannosaurus like me," I was fucking hooked when I was a kid. Just watching them do the handshake of doom, you know, when they fucking just full biceps, him and Apollo Creed. That is the best action film out of the 80s, in my opinion, just because everything it has. It has sci-fi alien, which I love. It has Arnold Schwarzenegger kicking the shit out of an alien. It has guns. It has cussing. It has people talking about like pussy jokes. It has everything a man wants. It is like the Expendables with an alien. It's fucking amazing, dude.
I will judge you for your top two because they are more sci-fi in my book than they are action, but I can't say that they're bad films because I like both of them. So I will give you credit for that. But with that, man, you want to take a break before we go into the next segment?
Yep.
Bleach Bros podcast is proud to align itself with Jerky Pro, a beef jerky manufacturer established by military and paramilitary veterans.
Available in 3-ounce or 1-pound bags with great flavors such as honey glazed, teriyaki, red hot, apple cinnamon, original, peppered, sweet barbecue, and if you're ballsy enough, nuclear.
Be sure to use our promo code to get some of the best jerky on the market. Use Bleach Bros 5, all lowercase, to take advantage of this offer today.
So B-word, you brought up something after we listed the 80s movies, and I do want to ask you this, because it's sort of in the same vein. So Point Break, we all know, is your end-all be-all fucking favorite thing. Do you wish now, knowing what you know now when they redid it and they did a shitty job, that they would have done what Top Gun did and just did a continuation, like type of sequel, rather than try for a remake?
No, because Patrick Swayze dies at the end, and I think that the chemistry that he and Keanu had at the same time was irreplaceable for that storyline. Also, Lori Petty's become a real bag. So, you know, how do you bring her back?
I mean, the best line from this. She's a real fucking bag, bro.
Dude, if you've seen Orange is the New Black, she is nasty looking. So no, I don't know. No, I would say no.
What if they did like a Fight Club thing where like he just talks to Patrick Swayze as like a fucking old ghost,
like a force ghost?
Yeah, like it just followed around.
No, I think you're still reaching. No, I was okay to a certain extent if like they would have remade Point Break and they would have tried to keep it somewhat close to the original plot, if you will, or not necessarily the plot, but like what made Point Break Point Break. I'm not opposed to remakes per se. But the remake on that one was fucking terrible, dude. It was just terrible. So no, the answer is no.
Okay. I figured I'd ask, man. I needed to know because like I feel like there's continuations and they still fuck that up too. Yeah. Like, did you watch Bill and Ted Face the Music?
No, I did not.
It's not.
I did because nothing about it said watch it.
Well, that was the problem. I just watched it recently because like when it came out, I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, oh no. and then the other day I was sitting around bored and I went, oh, okay. So I went from, oh yeah, to oh no, to okay.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll put this on.
No,
and I fell asleep and I tried again and it's not very good. And it's one of those, like, it's not that I want them to remake it, but a remake might have been better than what they did.
Well, it's kind of like the remake of, or is it the trilogy or the sequel of Dumb and Dumber? Was it Dumb and Dumber?
Well, there was Dumb and Dumber, Dumb and Dumber, and then Dumb and Dumbest.
Too dumb, I don't
know the timeline of Dumb and Dumber. I only know the original.
Whatever the sequel was with Jim Carrey and with I can't. Jeff Bridges.
Is that the one when Harry met Lloyd?
Jeff Bridges. No. It wasn't a prequel. It was a sequel. And not Jeff Bridges. What's the guy's name who played Harry?
Oh, he was from The Newsroom.
Yes.
Now I can't remember his name.
Anyway,
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, I was not Jeff Bridges, but anyway, they took the characters and they continued on, and I felt like they did way too much fan service with that, and that just wasn't like, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a decent movie. It just wasn't great.
What's worse, the Dumb and Dumber sequel that you're talking about, or Anchorman 2?
Oh, I fucking love Anchorman 2.
You like Anchorman 2?
Yeah.
That movie's so garbage, dude.
It is not good compared to Anchorman. I will give you that, but it is so much better than. Yeah, it is bad.
So stupid. There's nothing good about it. It's so terrible.
It is meant to be that stupid, though. Like, there's a difference. Like, when I saw whatever the sequel is to Dumb and Dumber, like I anticipated like the humor would continue, but not be in the manner that it was. Like, I felt like it would stay in the same vein as the previous humor, and while it did kind of, it was more forced, I felt. Whereas with Anchorman 2,
having a pet great white shark on a fucking beach is not forced.
It was meant to be stupid and ridiculous. Like, that was the premise of it. And so, yeah, I'll give you that.
That movie's this is your draft. That's the shittiest opinion you've ever had on the show, B-word. Terrible. Shut up.
I'll give you that, man. But speaking of Top Gun and everything 80s and summertime blockbusters and just good old America, right? You have a recipe for us that you'd like to give out to the audience. And one of the things that we talked about was, what are some really good things to barbecue or easy things to barbecue? Mm-hmm. And you and I both love wings, right? So you want to kind of take us through this?
Yeah, not to be lame, but this is, because you're my wingman. And I did a grilled chicken wings with an apricot spicy mustard glaze.
Sounds good.
It's just, it's got everything that pops. It's got, some garlic, some orange juice. One of my favorite ingredients on the planet that I've always talked about is mustard. And you can I wouldn't use yellow. I'd either use Dijon or stone ground. But essentially, you're going to take this, you're going to mix all your ingredients that we're going to post up for people with, some orange juice, like I said, serrano chilies, black pepper, shallots, and you're going to pour this marinade and just let them sit in the fridge, which is nice. You can do this the night before, whatever. And then you could put this on your gas grill, your charcoal grill, however you want to do it. Reserve some of that glaze, cook it down, strain it, and then just rub it on the wings once they're nice and cooked. It has a perfect pop for sitting outside and having any type of shandy, lemonade, anything you want. And it's a really good dish because it's easy. As I said, you make a marinade, you pour it on the wings, you throw them on the grill, you pull it, and you just enjoy. Now, I will say this. The tip I will say is leave the tips on the wings if you can. Buy the whole wings. Have you ever done that, B-word, where you cook the whole damn wing in one shot?
Yeah.
That little nugget at the end, that little tip, is probably the crispiest, best piece you're ever going to have. The other tip I would say is low and slow. You do not need to blast. People need to really get over trying to cook their food as fast as possible. And that's where I think where people run into problems, whether it's a grill, a stovetop, or anything, is they just want it done because they're hungry. And that's fine. You're cooking because you're hungry. But if you ever notice, like, for example, if you're cooking sausage in the morning and it starts burning on the outside and it's raw on the inside, your pan's too hot. Just turn it down. Same thing with your grill. If you start burning the outside of this, because it has a marinade on it before, so that's the only thing you got to be careful of, is you don't want to burn the shit of it and have flare-ups and ruin these wings, is don't over crisp the outside. Just let it go at like 250, 300 degrees for a while. Take some time, sit out back, mow your lawn, come and check on them every now and then, pour some glaze on them again, and you will really enjoy it, dude. But we will have this recipe posted up, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
That sounds like that would go really good with a Rogue American Amber Ale. You know me, dude. I like some red beers. I like some amber ales. And of course I love Rogue. Rogue is a great beer. Rogue is a great brewery. One of my favorite beers is Bat Squatch, and we've covered that before. But trying to keep with the patriotic theme here, of course, the Rogue American Amber Ale does have that patriotic label on it, which always catches my eye because we're Bald Eagle Freedom Party all the way. One of the things that I like about this beer is not only is it an amber beer, but it also has kind of a toffee taste to it, and it's not very hoppy. It is smoother. I know that for wings, to go with something like a Pilsner or even a blonde would probably be good. But for me, I like those dark beers. I like the flavorful beer, and Rogue has a really good flavor here. It does have some light citrus to it, so you do taste those notes. A little bit of pine, and some a little bit of malt. Like you can taste the malt in it too, and of course, because it's a darker beer, it also has molasses. And you could taste the caramel and some dark fruits in there. And I think with your wings, especially having the citrus on the wings, I think the citrus in the beer would also pair very well with that too. What are your thoughts on that as a chef?
Well, one, I like that you picked something from my neck of the woods again. I mean, Rogue Brewery is a great,
right?
They make great products, and I've worked with their beer before. But very good pick, because as you know, when I used to drink, I love amber beers. I love that malty, frothy finish, and you need to balance out your food.
Yep.
And we've talked about this before. So like drinking something that might be a little heavier with this, rather than you said it right, instead of a Pilsner or a Lager. Not that any beer is probably going to be wrong with this, but like I wouldn't pair one of my favorites, like a sour, with this, because with these wings, because you got citrus, spicy notes. You don't need that. This heavier beer is going to really like balance out the light, citrusy, spicy action that you have and carry the dish through. I wouldn't go as heavy as a stout. I would say but ambers or reds are probably my favorite, especially in summertime, because you get that heavy malt finish with a balanced crispness. If that's I think the best way to put it.
That's probably a perfect definition there, which is why I personally like ambers with wings, especially the spicy wings, like not necessarily like a lemon wing or, something that has that citrusy thing on there already. But ambers for me are my go-to with chicken, barbecue chicken, or even chicken wings, whether it be buffalo or barbecue or whatever kind of flavor. In this scenario, you've got these citrus spice wings. So I do think that it would go well together, my man. And I know that we're past the Memorial Day weekend, but I really kind of wish that we were doing this on Memorial Day, because now it sounds like a really damn good idea.
I know, dude. Well, you need to come back up here. I've been grilling my ass off. I will say that. I made some damn good ribs last night.
I'm a little jealous of that, dude. Yep. A little jealous of that. I haven't grilled at all in the last few weeks, actually. So the weather's been kind of weird. So I'll get back into it.
I'm hitting those small windows because we're still having a lot of rain and it's cold and windy.
Yeah.
But it has been nice to just be able to, when there is the sun shining. Like I said, I popped on my grill the other day. I bought 2 racks of ribs at the store, and corn was on sale for like $3 for $1. And I did a dry rub, let them sit for a few hours, put them out on the counter for 30 minutes to warm up, had that grill up to 500, threw them on there with like drip pans underneath, and then just took it all the way down to 280 and just let them go.
Wow.
And dude, I don't believe that, ribs shouldn't be fall off the bone tender. I'll say that. If anybody's listening to this show, if you do that, it shouldn't happen. They should have a little pull to them. And then I just sauced them at the end, but the family just devoured them, which was awesome.
Sounds good, dude. Well, with that, my man, it's been a good show. I think we touched a lot of good topics here. So with that, Jake, what do you got for us?
Thanks for all the dirty talk. Come back and get sanitized. This is Jake from the Bleach Bros podcast, and thank you for listening to today's episode. I want to bring to your attention our Linktree. Visit Linktree/Bleach Bros podcast for access to all of our socials, merch, and streaming sites. Linktree is linktr.ee/Bleach Bros podcast, all one word. And if you enjoy our content, make sure to give us a like, give us a review on whatever platform you are listening on, and also invite your friends. If you're a fan of our show, be sure to check out this one to stay sanitized.
Your dog is cute, your kids are adorable, and your cat really does look good in that tutu. But there's only so many times you can talk about how cool velociraptors are, or how much you want to rub that fuzzy belly. How about a podcast with extraordinary people and scintillating conversation? It's The Derek Duval Show. Find it at DerekDuvalShow.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. And no, I will not be attending your cat's quinceañera.